This is Gilbert Andrew Garcia of A Tip from Gilbert, talk, inspiration, and prayer. Listen to my show every Monday from 11 to 12 on KWWJ 1360 AM, KYOK 1140 AM, KCOH at 1230 KCOH.com, Sankeet Radio at 95.1 FM, 1460 AM, and Latino Sports, KEYH 850 AM. Call in at 832-570-8075 and follow me on social media. See you then. Right, Houston, Harris County, you got me, Gilbert Garcia, with another tip from me, talk, inspiration, and prayer. And I tell you, it's one of those days when you have a really esteemed guest, and boy, you got a lot coming here because we got someone who's been around a long time. Everybody knows him, not just here in Houston, Harris County, but nationally, because he has been a national leader in the Congress now for 11 terms, I believe, and that is Congressman Al Green. Well, welcome, Congressman. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, it's an honor to be with you, and you're so excited. You're so eupeptic. You excite me, and so I'm all fired up and ready to go.
Well, here we go, because, we're going to cover a lot of ground today, because I wanted the people to know a little bit more about you the person. Not just the elected official that we know, but you, the person. And, of course, this has been such a chaotic time.
It is.
And I'd like to hear from you as someone who's there. Remember Hamilton? I want to be in the room when it happens, the room when it happens. You're there. And, from our side looking in, it just seems so chaotic. And I want to know, what is it like being there? And so we want to go through all of that. And one of the things we always like to do is open up with a prayer. And, of course, I want to say a shout-out to Mr. Roy Melanson. You are honorary, but we love you, my friend, and you know we do, because he likes to send me prayers now and then. Georgia Provost, I always love the prayers that you send me. But you know what? Because you're such a man of faith, why don't you lead us in prayer today for Houston and Harris County?
Well, thank you. It's a preeminent privilege to do so. And I would add this, before I consume any food, this is my prayer, and I'll share it with you.
Please.
Most gracious Creator, we know you by many names, but we also know that by any name, you are the Creator of all that was, is, and ever shall be. And we who have assembled as friends, we ask your blessings. But more than this, we want to thank you for the many gifts. We thank you for your love, your grace, and the gift of life. We thank you for your mercies and your forgiveness throughout life. We thank you for your angels to protect life and your creation to sustain life. We thank you for your air, the breath of life, your water, the elixir of life, your star that we know as sun, the light and warmth of life, your terra firma that we call earth, the foundation and home of life. And we who have assembled pray that as we go forward, we would
something greater than us. There is a creator. There is a God. No matter what name we have it, because things are just too perfect. The way the human body works, the way nature works, the way everything's out there. There is a God. There has to be. It's too perfect. Am I right?
I absolutely agree. The sun and the stars and the moon, the way they function together, the moon circulating around the earth, and then the sun being some 93 million miles away that provides the sunlight for the earth and the warmth. Yes, there has to be. I don't dispute these things with other people, but I do say that for me, it's impossible to see my eye and then conclude that there's not a creator, because the eye itself, the complexities associated with it and the functionality that it does, is just something about us that should tell us that because we exist, there must be a greater being.
There has to be.
Yes.
Well, I'm so glad to have you, Congressman. We got a lot to talk about. First of all, I just wanted to mention to you, thank you for your service, as they say, but more importantly, 11 terms. And what have you noticed about how Congress has changed, or Wall Street has changed, the tenor of it all? Just give us some insight, because you are there and you have seen, sort of how things have evolved with time. Give us your insight on that.
Well, you're right. Things have metamorphosed. When I arrived, there was a greater degree of collegiality. That collegiality has given way to now our being segregated and separated. When I arrived, we talked to each other. We even had lunch and dinner. There was a lot more of that. But somewhere along the way, we decided to give up on something called earmarks. Earmarks engendered collegiality because we talked to each other about what we needed in our various districts, and we were all trying to help each other to help the people that we serve. But we abandoned the earmark process. Now it's come back, but it's not exactly what it was when I first arrived. Because when I first arrived, President Bush was very helpful in helping me get $100 million into the city for flood control. I mean, this is the president who's across the aisle from me. But we had that kind of relationship, and we would kid around. You don't have that anymore. Another thing, all of the power now has been centralized in the speaker in the House. The speaker decides what's going to happen, when it will happen, and when it will not happen. That lack of authority that used to be in the hands of committee chairpersons has now been centralized, and as a result, the chairperson of Ways and Means, who used to be probably one of the most powerful people in Congress, has to yield to the speaker when it comes to legislation that the chairperson would like to move through the Congress. So it has just become so centralized that it is difficult for people to have their individual lives integrated with each other.
That is fascinating. And, you know, as someone who, well, you know what, I'm going to do one of these. There was a show called Deal No Deal, and it would get really exciting, Howie Mandel would say, and we're going to talk about this right after this. And then we go to a station break. We have Anise Parker calling in. Was that, did you say that was Anise Parker?
Yes.
Anise Parker, are you there?
Hello?
Anise Parker. I thought we had Anise Parker. Let's see where she's at. Hold on a minute. I know she's coming. All right, we'll get her back. Hopefully she'll call back. Let's keep going. One of the things that was fascinating to me, Congressman, is when I come to work, everybody knows I'm a money manager, et cetera, and when I come to work, it used to be you come to work, what's going on in the economy, this, that. Now you come to work, and the first thing you do is, what do they do in the White House? I mean, has it always been like that?
No, it hasn't always been like this. This is something that evolved to the extent that it has as a result of the current president. This president has brought a mindset that we have not seen before in our lifetimes, to be very candid with you. He seems to think that separation of powers is not necessary. He seems to believe that due process, the ability to say, hey, you have the wrong person. He seems to think that that's not necessary. People are picked up on the street and they're taken off to some distant place. Relatives don't know where they are. It takes just an inordinate amount of time to just discover where is your relative, what has happened to the person. And he also has this disdain, it seems, for the ability of people to challenge him. He refuses to allow a challenge, to the extent that the people who work for him have become what we call sycophants. They enjoy telling him, it seems, how great he is, and he surely enjoys hearing it. So he has brought about a change in the way we do business, in the way we address the presidency itself, and in the way this country relates to other countries. No other president has said Canada should be a state. Presidents have not been about the business of demeaning Greenland and saying that we're going to buy you. Presidents
Or take you. Or take you.
Take you. Well, even worse.
Invade,
yes.
yeah, please.
And presidents, generally speaking, respect our European allies. These are the people that we expect to come to our aid and assistance in times of great need, and they anticipate that we would do a similar thing. But this president believes that we can go alone. He has devolved democracy into an autocracy. And if we're not careful, we will become a de facto dictatorship. I have to fight this, and I do stand up to him. And this is one of the reasons why the 9th Congressional District has been relocated to another area in the state.
We're going to talk about the whole redistricting in just one second because it's fascinating to me, and we've talked about it a lot here on the show over the last really year or so, how normally, and I've gone through it with the voters and people, but at the end of the day, they just need to continue to know. Normally, you do a census every 10 years, and then migration, people move around, and you want to make sure all the districts are so big. I think now it's about 800,000, more or less.
A little less.
A little less. And at the end of the day, you want to make things kind of even and homogeneous with neighborhoods, et cetera. This is the first time it's been done
Mid-decade.
Mid-decade. Oh, my God. Is there Anise Parker on the line?
Hey, Gilbert, how are you doing this morning?
Anise-
And respects to the Congressman.
There you
Good
go.
morning, Mayor. It's good to hear your voice. I hope all is well with you and yours.
Well, Mayor, how are you doing, and what are you doing on this fine President's Day?
I am probably doing the same thing that Congressman Green is, and you are, and that is reminding people that this is a very fraught political season, and that we must all stand up and defend democracy. And early voting for our races in the primaries starts tomorrow. So I do care that people vote in the Democratic primary because I'm running in the Democratic primary, but I care more that people vote in either primary and do their part to defend democracy, because the vote is the most critical tool we have. And as the Congressman said, Trump is just doing his best to dismantle democracy, and so we have to push back.
Mayor, it's so amazing for you to say, you know what, whether you support me or this, I'm paraphrasing you, of course, just vote. I mean, how wonderful for you. That's a real statesman. And, I want to make sure everybody knows this, Mayor, which is Metro, and of course you appointed me to the Metro board, and we did so many wonderful things when you were mayor, but we are now doing early voting, of course, and now there are free rides to the polls by Metro. So everyone, there's no excuse. Go out and vote. Metro will take you there. This is a critical time. And Mary, was there ever a time that you thought to yourself, my God, all the things we're seeing today that you would ever see them again? I mean, ever that, maybe
Trump is trying to create an autocracy.
Yeah, I mean,
here it's horrifying, and the SAVE Act, these new voter ID requirements where you have to bring a passport or a birth certificate in to vote, and of course, let's not even talk about masked secret police on the streets of America. And while you did paraphrase me correctly, and that is, I just want people to vote and participate, because I think Americans will ultimately do the right thing if enough of us participate. I absolutely would call on people to reject the MAGA movement and this move toward dictatorship. And so people who are voting in the Republican primary need to vote against MAGA candidates. If they can find people to vote for, they just show up and vote.
Well, Mayor, that is so wonderful. Tell us anything you want to say in closing here about any events you got going on or everything?
I'm excited about my candidacy for Harris County Judge. I'm feeling confident about the primary, and I look forward to continuing to serve the citizens of this region. So I am Anise Parker. I am a candidate for Harris County Judge, and I would appreciate your vote.
And Mayor, of course, I don't like to throw too many stones, but at the end of the day, I saw where the county judge, Lena Hidalgo, marched out of a meeting and all this kind of stuff. At the end of the day, we need you more than ever. So let's get some, some stability back into that county leadership there on the Harris County Commissioners Court. Thank you so much for joining.
Gilbert, I just appreciate so much what you do to raise awareness, and again to the congressman who has represented us for so many years as a JP and then a member of Congress. Thank you for getting out there, and I've seen him out on the campaign trail. I've seen his opponent out on the campaign trail as well. But this is about all of us standing up for democracy.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor Anise Parker. Of course, I support you. Let's go.
All right, go.
Thank you. That's Anise Parker. Let's come back to you, Congressman.
Sure.
So going back, did you ever think you'd ever see something like, maybe NATO's going to be dismantled? I mean, can you imagine that? Where so many people, hundreds of thousands died, gave their lives to bring peace in the world, and all of a sudden it's like touch and go now.
You're right. Normandy comes to mind immediately.
Right?
It is something that I don't want to ever see again. I think that we have to do all that we can to prevent this president from devolving democracy into a dictatorship. The mayor mentioned it, and I would want to say this. What she said about secret police, the notion that we would tolerate persons in masks to approach a female and then take that person into custody and just take her away. And family and friends are looking for her and they don't know exactly where to find her. But also you've got to realize that we have a president who disrespects the judiciary. He has decided that if a judge rules and it is something that he deems to be inappropriate, the judge should be impeached. It took
That's right.
Chief Justice John Roberts to tell him by way of a tweet that this is not the way we do business in this country. If you don't like an opinion, then you appeal. You don't impeach. This is the mindset that he has. He simply believes that he is all-powerful, and he's behaving as if he is all-powerful. But it's up to people like me, those of us in Congress, to put him in check. And one of the ways we put him in check is to threaten him now with impeachment. We may not get it done now, but he needs to know that we will do it. And he does not want to be impeached. Now, impeachment, for edification purposes, is but an indictment. It's sort of like an indictment, not the same because it's a political document. And so when you impeach him, you're saying to him, these are your transgressions. And we in the House of Representatives, a majority of us, we don't agree with what you're doing. And as a result, you will now go over to the Senate to face a trial. And the last 2 times he's not been found guilty of all of these dastardly deeds that he's committed. But we want to let him know that he is subject to impeachment again, and he will not change his behavior, but he will have some sense of fright because he doesn't want to see this happen to him again.
Well, let me ask this. You came out early on this impeachment. You
Yes.
came out his term number 1, Trump won, right?
Yes, yes.
Tell us about that. And when you did it, was there like a lot of pushback from Republicans? Like, what are you doing? Because you were one of the first ones to say it's not right.
Yes. Yes, I was, and for edification purposes, again, I draft my own articles of impeachment.
Is that right? Okay.
I do. And but you can do it, or you can have legislative counsel do it for you. But I believe so much in what I do that I put my pen to paper and do it myself. And when I did it the first time, you're eminently correct. There was an inordinate amount of pushback. There were people who tried to convince me that this was not the appropriate thing to do, that you're not going to get any support. And the support was limited the first time, some 50-plus persons. But the last time I did it, during his first administration, it went to 95 persons, thereabout. And as a result, then it became something that people realized could occur.
It's becoming real.
That's right. And then as a result, it then did become real. And as a result of that, he was impeached twice. So we laid the foundation for it. Somebody has to be the first out there. And on some issues, Gilbert, to be very candid with you, it is better to stand alone than not stand at all. And this is one of those times when you have to be willing to just stand alone, take a stand. When I stood up against the president at the joint session of Congress, I didn't go there to do this. I went there to walk out to show my displeasure with the president's message. And as I collected my portable items and I turned to leave, as I was doing this, he talked about his mandate. And then it just hit me. It was spontaneity. And I stood and I said, you don't have a mandate to cut Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security. And of course, there was quite a ruckus from my colleagues across the aisle. And eventually I was escorted out. I was later on censured, but I wasn't silenced. I'm an unbought, unbossed, unafraid, liberated Democrat. I not only speak truth to power, I will speak truth about power. It's easy to speak truth to power. You simply say, power, there's a problem, we need to solve it. But if you speak truth about power, you say, power, there's a problem, and you're it.
That is so great. And you know, there's an old saying that leaders lead. Leaders lead.
Well,
and it can be lonely.
Well, it is lonely, but it is also necessary. And when you say leaders lead, this means that you don't always do what is popular.
That's right.
Dr. King was great with one of his quotes. He said, there are times when you have to do that which is neither safe nor politic, nor popular, and you do it because it's right. And I'll let that guide me. I'm not a guy who says, you have to join me. No, I lead by example. If you like my example, then you follow the example. If you don't, then I understand.
Well, you know, the great Congressman John Lewis said, you served with him.
I did.
He said, you know, if you see something, you got to say something.
say something.
You got to do it. We have another caller, but before we do that, producer, just make sure we're picking up on some of your feedback when you're on the phone, okay? So let's make sure we're very careful there. Okay, we have a Larry Rubin on the line. Larry, are you there?
I am here. Thank you. Thank you for taking the call.
Larry, what do you got for you, my friend? You're on the air with Houston, Harris County. We got Congressman Al Green here. What do you got?
Congressman, good morning. Well, actually, we're working the district and talking to neighbors, listening to what's important to them. So excited about serving and really serving the people, the great people of the district and of Texas.
So remind me, if I'm not mistaken, you are running for Congress in District 9, which is the old Al Green's district. We're going to talk about the old and the new in a moment.
And no, it's actually District 38.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Hold on.
Yeah,
I'm so
Wesley
sorry.
Bunce used to have this district. Yeah.
I so apologize to you. Wesley Hunt's, Wesley Hunt's district. And that's a pretty heavy Republican district.
It is. It's very heavy. It's usually R plus 12. So the primaries really define who will become the congressman in this district. Obviously, things can change, but that's what it's been historically. And additionally, it's also a crowded field. There's 10 of us. And so for me, the most important is just getting out there, talking to neighbors. I'm here at Springbrook, which is part of the district. And it's always very important to hear what's in their mind, and what's in their mind is cost of living and security. So we're ready to serve, and never been a career politician. So excited to work with everyone in the Capitol and in DC.
Well, one thing I know about you, because I know a little bit about you. Of course, we don't know each other that well, but I know you've got a lot of support from some people in the Latino community. Is you're a real open, free trade person. And in this day and age of all these terrorists, and the problem with terrorists is, number one, it's a tax on the people. That's what it is. Let's get really past all this. All you're doing is raising taxes on people, and because it's on goods, you're really it's a regressive tax, which means you're really taxing everybody rather than the people who have the means to pay the tax. You're just taxing everybody, all of us that just go buy groceries and other things that we need to have in our day-to-day lives. So I know you're very open about free trade and things of that nature. So I congratulate you. Because when you get there, let's make sure we have some real good, bring back that spirit of working together across the aisle and focus on the things that we have in common rather than focus on these esoteric issues that, of course, we disagree on, but focus on what we have in common for the betterment of the country.
The betterment of the country is so important, and that's why trade in North America is key. Obviously, Mexico and Canada are our largest trading partners, and USMCA as well as NAFTA before it were instrumental in helping American trade. So I'm excited to get there, and as you say, work with everyone that has America as a first priority, and there's a lot to do. So finding common ground is essential. So we get things done in Congress.
Larry, thank you for calling in, and feel free to call in again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Very good. We're going to come back to the Congressman, but we have another caller. Is there a Pearl on there? Pearl, are you there? Pearl.
Hello?
Let's get Pearl. Okay, we must have lost Pearl. Pearl, call in again, and we'll get you back on the air for a question for Congressman Al Green. Let's get to something, Congressman, because this is kind of not the elephant in the room, but it's the sort of like help clear this whole thing up. What is going on with the district and the lines and this and that? Because it's so confusing, and I'd like to think that I'm a educated person, but you know what? I can't keep up with the whole thing. Could you just go through all that from beginning to end of what's going on with the district lines?
Well, it's not by accident that people are confused. It's because the president wanted this. Mm-hmm. And this is, as far as I can ascertain, the first time we've had two congressional elections going on at the same time with the same number. Two 18th congressional district races taking place at the same time with the same number. Usually it's a 9 or an 18. But here's what happened. The president communicated by and through his Justice Department with the state of Texas and the governor and the attorney general, and said he wanted to have 5 Democratic seats become Republican seats so that authority and power could be maintained in the House of Representatives, because the lines are very thin between now the House, the Democrats in the House and the Republicans. You have to have 218 to have a majority, and this is very close. So the governor decided that he would honor the president's request, and he decided he would draw 5 lines and have the state legislature approve lines that would become Republican seats. And so to do this in Houston, they cracked and they packed. They cracked 9 and 18, and then they packed them together. And in so doing, they eliminated 9 as a reliable Democratic seat. It may still be Democratic, but it has been moved to Liberty County, and there's not a lot of room for Democrats to maneuver and accomplish this, but it could happen. And in doing this, cracking and packing, removing 1 seat, they took the 18th congressional district, which is north, and they took about 1/3 of it and added 2/3 of the 9th congressional district to the 18th. So now you have this new 18th congressional district that is 2/3 9, 1/3 18.
Okay, I'm
Now-
going to interrupt you right there.
Okay.
So that means your district that you represent now,
Yes.
the 9,
Yes.
2/3 of it is now in the new district that you're running for.
Yes,
Is-
2/3 of that new district are people.
It comes from your old district.
Correct.
So really, the line's changed on you. Is that right?
I tell people all the
Go,
time.
let's go.
I didn't move to the 18th. The 18th moved to me.
Yeah.
And if I'm to run from Congress, it makes sense that I would run from the place where I've lived for 30 years.
Right.
The place where I have a constituency that I relate to. I have been faithful to them, and they have been faithful to me. I believe that this just makes sense. So I'm running from that area. But now there's another thing that's happened in this equation, and it's this. The Honorable Sheila Jackson Lee served, and if anybody knew her, you know that she worked until her very last breath. I mean, she was that kind of person.
Amen to her.
She worked
Yes.
hard. And then Sylvester Turner, the night that he made his transition, he and I were together. We were at the joint session of Congress. And just before I stood and admonished the president, he was there and he left me. We were talking, and then he turned to my right and he traversed up the aisle. And then the next morning we discovered that he transitioned. Well, when these two people had their, what I'm going to call untimely transitions, there are people now who somehow believe that they're at fault for this taking place. That if they had left office sooner or something, that we wouldn't have, the governor wouldn't have done this. But the governor would have done this regardless of the age of the person. He was going to play this out as long as he could, because that way there's one less vote in the House of Representatives for Democrats, one less reliable vote. So as a result of this happening, we find ourselves with these two 18th congressional districts, and one of them now having been eliminated. We've elected someone to represent the old 18th. That's the one that Sylvester Turner was representing. So that unexpired term will be fulfilled, and that will take place throughout this year. But then there's this new 18th. There is no incumbent in the new 18th. While I've said that 2/3 of it is 9, but there's no incumbent. There are 2 candidates primarily, and then a third, but there's no incumbent. And what we're doing now is we're running for this new 18th congressional district. I am running on my record, not rhetoric. I'm not a what I will do candidate. I'm a what I have done candidate. 3 federal judges. If you can get one as a congressperson, you've done something magnificent, because we don't nominate, we can recommend. The senators nominate. The president then decides. So I recommended 3 people. George Hanks, you probably know George, a federal judge, and you know Al Bennett, federal judge, and Greg Costa, who not only did we get him as a federal judge at the federal level here in Texas, he also went to the 5th Circuit.
Oh, wow.
So we had 3 and 4 positions. Also, I have been very fortunate. I told you that I worked with President Bush. We brought millions into for flood control when he was in office, and then some more thereafter. But I like to credit him because we were working across the aisle to get these things done. I would also add for small businesses, $20 billion for small businesses that I've been able to incorporate into legislation such that it has benefited small businesses. When it comes to Texas Southern University, we've got millions over to Texas Southern University. The hospital district, the port, the airports, the infrastructure, billions of dollars. So I can talk about what I have done. I don't have to say to you, here's what I will do. But I want to mention one additional thing.
Yes, sir.
And this is really important. First I have to tell you, when I was the chairperson of Oversight and Investigations, when we had 218 votes, I was the chair. Oversight and Investigation, a subcommittee on the Financial Services Full Committee under the leadership of the Honorable Maxine Waters. I conducted the hearings to get some empirical evidence as to whether or not people of color are discriminated against when they go in to borrow money. They are. People of color are likely to pay more for the loan, likely to have terms that are less favorable, puts them in a position where they are likely to default more so than someone else because they start out with terms that are more onerous than someone else. Finding this out, I crafted a piece of legislation, H.R. 166, the Fair Lending for All Act. Here's what we do. We put the borrower on the same footing as the bank. If you defraud the bank, you can be charged a fine up to $1 million. You can be in prison for defrauding the bank. But if the bank denies you a loan that you're qualified for, you don't have a similar criminal penalty available to you to deter that type of behavior. So we now have a piece of legislation that we literally passed in the House of Representatives, didn't get any great publicity, passed in the House of Representatives to make it a crime for a banker to defraud you of a loan. If we do this and get it through the Senate, this is one of the reasons why I say to people, I've got more work to do. Get this through the Senate and the president to sign it, I assure you, my friend, there will be people who are going to be very careful about engaging in invidious discrimination in lending because there will be this criminal penalty there. You can go to jail if you do it,
And you
can be fined if you do it.
And what's interesting is everything I just heard you say is, you know what? Just do the right thing.
Yes.
Which is give people a chance,
That's
an equal chance to borrow money, which is what they're supposed to do in the first place.
We call it bootstraps.
There you go.
Give people an opportunity to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. But bootstraps are those banks.
Yep.
You know, when you can borrow money, it makes a difference. Look, putting your home up to get a start for a business is a great thing to do if you can do it, you know, the equity in your home. But let me tell you, most people who really succeed, they get a loan, a small business loan, and of some sort, and then they move on. But these things are not highly published. And this is one of the reasons why there are a lot of people who want me out of office because I bring this kind of legislation. And not only do I bring it, I don't take money from the banks. This committee that I'm on, the chief means of raising your capital for elections are the banks that you are to regulate. I don't take their money.
Yeah, and I want to come back to something because I know that you've been a target of the crypto industry.
Yeah.
And I want to come to that. But right after this, we have another caller. Is there a Pearl there? Pearl, I think we got you now. Pearl, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, Miss Pearl, you got me, Gilbert Garcia, with Congressman Al Green, and you're on a tip from Gilbert. What do you got for Houston, Harris County, or for the congressman?
I am actually running for Congress in District 22.
Oh, excuse me for my ignorance. Where's District 22 again?
All over the place with the redistricting as well. We're in Fort Bend mainly, a little bit of Harris County, Brazoria County. We go all the way to Lake Jackson, all the way to Katy, Meadville, Orange, places west and places south. So it's pretty big district, actually.
Well, let me ask you this, because I'm not familiar with you, so I apologize for my ignorance. Are you running as a Democrat or Republican?
I am running as a Democrat, and this is the first time I'm running for Congress. So it's a new experience for me as well.
Well, very good. I'm going to give you a quick second here, which is, what's the one or two top things going on in your whole district and that you're running for? I mean, what are the two main topics?
number one, the confusion about the redistricting is very prominent for a lot of the residents in my area. However, I am a healthcare professional, a cancer survivor. I'm a parent to 3 children. I'm also a first-generation American on my dad's side. He came to America when he was 10 years old. People feel like they're not being heard. They're not being able to receive the health care that they need. I've been in healthcare for 30 plus years. I've had my own struggles. I've seen people have struggles, and nobody really understands what's going on right now. All they know is they cannot get the care that they need. They can't get to a doctor's office because they don't have the money or they don't have the insurance. They're utilizing the ERs like they're a doctor's office because that's one place they can go and no one can turn them away. But they are also waiting for care to be, given to them longer, and so they're sicker when they come in. That's a big thing right now in our district because we don't have a hospital district per se, and people are talking about that. The other thing is just your typical crime things that are going on. They go on everywhere, not so much here, maybe, in Fort Bend, but I was on a grand jury, which I had no idea what a grand jury was. I finished 18 months of a commitment in the Southern District of Texas, down in Harris County, and I became much more knowledgeable and had a greater understanding of the things that were happening. Gun violence, violence against children, human trafficking. I mean, I learned a lot that I knew existed, but not to the extent that it existed. And the other thing that is people are feeling like they're not getting heard. That's their biggest thing. When I've been out in the community in these meetings, the people that I'm meeting with, they just want to be heard. They just want an answer. Even if you don't have the right answer, they just want to be acknowledged.
Well, I really appreciate you calling in, and we wish you much success. And feel free to call in again there, Pearl.
All right. I really appreciate you giving me this time.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're very welcome. Let's come back to Congressman Al Green. Congressman, let's go back to this crypto because, everyone knows my position on crypto, which is, it's one of those things that's kind of a speculative item. There really is no intrinsic value to it, and it really is a method for off-balance sheet transactions. In other words, nefarious activity where you don't have to report big withdrawals, things of that nature, because as everyone knows, if you take out $10,000, you have to essentially pass it on so the feds know and everybody knows that real cash is being exchanged in a big number. But here you're able to do things and nobody really knows. And so I know that you have strong thoughts about it. I'm going to let you talk about it. But you are now a target of the crypto industry. Talk about that, because I know there was a big editorial, I believe, the New York Times or something about all that recently. Talk about it.
Well, thank you. You and I have similar positions,
Yes.
and if you were in Congress, you would be a target.
I understand that. I do
You
understand.
would. This is called pseudonymity, the ability to remain anonymous while transacting large sums of money, unlimited amount of money from one person to another. I can transact the money directly to you. Currently, with the American dollar, you have something called a central bank, and money goes through the central bank, and then people can trace that money if it's needed to be traced, if there's some necessity to do so, but you can't do it here. And the other thing that I just want to mention is that it concerns me in terms of how it can impact the dollar. The dollar is what's called the reserve currency globally, meaning other countries want to have dollars, and businesses transacted in dollars. This electronic data dollar, as they want, I might call it, it's cryptography. That could, in some ways, impact the dollar as a reserve currency of choice. And if that happens, we're going to have to pay more for the money that we borrow. We will probably have to find ourselves trying to connect this cryptography to a dollar, which is something that people are trying to do. So having said that, here's what's happened. Because I have voiced concerns, and the people in the cryptography industry, these cryptomaniacs, as there were, pardon me for saying, these people don't want people who dissent. They want everybody in Congress to allow them to draft the legislation that suits them. I happen to think that the SEC is the proper place for regulation. They happen to think that it should be the Commodities Futures Exchange, trade exchange should be the proper place for the regulation. Well, we differ, but their means of dealing with people who differ with them is to target them. So here's what they've done.
Let's go.
They have allocated $1.5 million in this race to take me out. And by the way, they're bold and they say it. Here's an article from the New York Times dated February the 12th.
Let's put that on there, Ken.
February the 12th. And if you would just go to this New York Times article, February the 12th, if you look across the top, you can see the title of it. It is styled, Crypto Industry Targets Al Green, a Texas Democrat who voiced concerns for speaking up, which I'm going to do continually. They have now decided to target me with $1.5 million. And these people, in doing this, they say in the article, it's going to be for negative ads. It's not to target me and say, well, his legislation is not the best or whatever. It's going to be negative ads. That's another way of saying lies. Mm-hmm. And they will do this to distort my image and do all that they can to convince even my mother to say, I didn't know my son was like that. Well, I don't want that to happen, and I'm fighting them. And I just want to believe that the new 18th Congressional District is not for sale, that people are not going to buy into these insidious prevarications that they will bring forth. My belief is that people know me, and hopefully they'll remember that I'm the guy who was out there when we had the pandemic. Mm-hmm. I'm the guy who was out there handing out food. I had a mask on, but I was out there. And after hurricanes, I'm the guy out there with the water. I don't just sit in my office and work. I'm a part of the community. If you're going to have government of the people, by the people, for the people, the person who represents the people has to be of the people. I'm out there with you. By the people, they've got to vote to put people in office. And if they do it, I promise I'm going to be for them as I have been. I'm not a I will do candidate. I am a I have done candidate. Just look at my record.
Well, you know what? I congratulate you for something, which is, things are different in Washington. Working across the aisle is hard. Boy, do we long for the Bushes again. Sanity, the world peace. Now there's crypto and all these crazy things, and AI is displacing hundreds of thousands of jobs. And good people that come out of school, all of a sudden they can't find a job. But you're still staying with it to serve. Tell me, where's that coming from that you just want to keep serving? And we congratulate you.
Well, thank you very much. I'll share a brief vignette.
Please.
That has inspired me to do things that I probably would not have done but for this occasion. I was at work with my father. My father was a person who was a laborer. I come from labor in the sense that my parents were workers. My mother was a maid, and my father worked on a job as a mechanic's helper. But he did whatever he was told. Clean up that grease spot, he did it. Clean the latrine, the toilets, he did it. And while I was at work with him on this occasion, they were calling him secretary. And I had never heard my father called secretary before, so I said, well, why are they calling you secretary? And he said, they're making fun of me. He said, they know that I can't read and write. And so every boy wants to think his father's Superman. So I said, well, why would you let them do that? And he said, because I want you to be able to read and write. And I believe, notwithstanding all of the things that I've said today, that I live in a country, really, when you look at the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, I live in a country where the son of a secretary can stand in the well of the Congress of the United States of America, read and write laws for the country, and impeach the President of the United States.
Man, I'm getting chills. Not to mention, can I borrow your cane for a minute? Not to mention, to say to the president, that's not right.
Yes.
That is bold. That's not right. And you did that. Well, you know what? I think your dad is Superman. And the thing about Superman is you don't know where the power is, but they have a certain amount of power, and he had it. And he had it, and now it's coming through you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And, The men of that time were too often called Uncle Toms, you know. But some of those Uncle Toms produced children who are making a difference.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. For your father. We have a caller. Is there a Natalia there? Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you.
Is there a Natalia there? Let's go to Natalia. I see a Natalia there. Is there a Natalia there? Natalia. We lost Natalia maybe. But I know there's another caller there. Danny Norris, you stay on. Don't leave me. Natalia. Natalia, are you there? You got me. You got Gilbert Garcia with a tip for me with Congressman Al Green.
Hi, Congressman Green. I have a question
Hello.
for you.
Yes.
So, I'm Gen Z, and I know my generation has a hard time getting involved in politics or just letting their voices be heard in general. I was wondering if you had any advice to give a young person who wants to run for office one day but doesn't know how they can get involved, or the steps that we should take as a young person.
I get this question quite regularly, so I have an answer that I've given some considerable thought to. And the question is, of course, how do you get involved? And here's how. Get involved in organizations like LULAC,
Amen.
the NAACP. You get to understand what the issues really are. If you just get your issues from the news, you don't understand the people and how their lives are impacted by the numbers that you hear. Get involved with these organizations. And after you've engaged and you know what the issues are, then go over to your precinct and work with the precinct judge. Understand how the elections function. And once you get an understanding of the electoral process and you understand the issues from the ground up, not from the top down, not from a book that you read, not from a news story that you heard, but from actually being there and helping somebody who's about to be evicted, helping somebody who has found that their home is about to be taken from them. When you help people at that station of life, you now have a feel for people, not for news stories. And that'll help you immensely when you decide that you're going to be a public servant and hold public trust. Public trust means the public has trusted you enough to put their fate in your hands. Every person who holds public trust has somebody's fate in his or her hand. And they're trusting you. And you'll then be able to reward them for trusting you with good service.
You know, Natalia, I'm going to chime in as well, which is, first of all, getting involved in the community is a wonderful thing. It's a noble thing. And it's, you know what else? It's fun. I mean, getting involved with young people that are motivated, that care about things, it's a fun deal. And I would say to you, the future belongs to you and your generation. This is your earth, your planet, your community, your city. And so, you know what? If you want to make change, go make it. And it begins with getting involved and registering to vote, and go vote.
Yes.
You got to vote, because one of the things that happens in your generation is there aren't enough people voting, and therefore you're ignored the things that are important to you, whether it's the climate, whether it's good jobs, whether it's education, things are too expensive. Go vote, Natalia.
And I would add one other thing.
Please.
Student loans. That's very important. I just believe that in the richest country in the world, where we have a man now about to become a trillionaire, in the richest country in the world, you ought not finish college with debt that it'll take you 10 years or longer sometimes to pay off. These are the years when you should be building your equity in a home. These are the years where you're setting the course for your future. But if you find yourself saddled with this debt over this long period of time, it makes it very difficult to do these things, because a good many people have to have those loans. Now, some people get them, but they can have some help from family members. But others, in my case, I didn't have any help at all. Those loans were very important to help me get through law school. So I just tell people, do what you can, But also remember that once you do this and you are entrusted with this public service, don't be afraid. Have courage. There were great orators when Dr. King was around. He was a great orator. Dr. King was also a person who was very learned. He was an intellectual. But the thing that he had that made him a great public servant without being a commissioner, he was a commissioner without a commission. He was a council person without an official council. But the thing that separated him was courage. Intelligence without courage can be intelligence wasted. So you got to have courage, and you got to be willing to stand up to the powerful. Even though it might cost you something, you got to be willing to take a stand.
Amen for that. We have more callers here, Congressman. Hold on. I see two more. Danny Norris, I lost you, but please call back. Connie, are you there? Is there a Connie there? Connie. Connie, you with me? If Connie's not there, we'll go to the next caller because I saw another one. Connie, are you there?
She's there.
Connie, do I have you?
Yes, hi, how are you? Hi, Congressman Al.
Hello.
You got me, Congressman Al. I like that. You got Gilbert Garcia with a tip for me with Congressman Al Green. What do you got for us, Connie?
Hi, I just wanted to say, Congressman, you're just so well spoken, and I
Thank
really,
you.
really
You're very
appreciate the way that you explain like the districting and all that. I think it's so important to be able to relate to your constituents and, just let them know that you just have a very calming, I don't know, I just feel very comforted by you. So thank you for that. And
Thank you.
also, I wanted to ask you, I have, kids and they're older now. My youngest is 18. He'll be graduating this year from high school. And I'm just really concerned. I'm worried about the job market. I'm worried about his future. I'm worried about, is he going to want to go to school? Is it worth it? All these costs are so high with going to school and just, preparing for the real world. And I don't know. I wanted to know, what are your plans? What are your initiatives to teach these young kids, for them to have, something to look forward to? Because I feel like it's just harder and harder to, have the American dream now. And it's just so unaffordable and so unattainable, and they're losing hope. And are there any initiatives to, maybe encourage kids to do something else, trades? I mean, I don't see any of that. So I just wanted to know from your perspective, from, your position, what you guys are doing.
Hey, Carlos, I'm going to add one thing to that, which is, I remember thinking to myself, well, God, one day college is going to cost, someday in my lifetime, $100,000 a year. That's now.
It is.
The top schools
Yes.
are $100,000. Even the state schools are $40,000-$50,000. So I just wanted to
Yes.
add that. It's just a staggering sum of money. Go ahead, Congressman.
Well, that's affordability. That's what the lady was referencing in part. And of course, there's another affordability, and that's what happens in the supermarket. Most of my constituents worry more about the supermarket than the stock market. And as a result, affordability is a real issue for them. But to answer the lady's question about this generation and AI, something that you brought up just earlier, and if all of these prognostications have any a scintilla of correctness associated with them, then we're going to see a large number of people who may graduate and may not have the opportunities that they have been trained to acquire, they're trained for. They may not get those opportunities. So here's something we are going to have to deal with. And by the way, I don't want to leave this with doom and gloom. I think that it can be dealt with, and I think that we can get through this. But I do think that we're going to have to calibrate our thinking, recalibrate, if you will, because we can no longer say that people are going to have to pay for that education themselves when other countries allow you to get an education through college without having a loan to deal with. So we have to deal with that. But we also have to conclude that if we're not going to have jobs immediately available in a country with the population that we have, then we're going to have some sort of income, a sort of a basic income. Now, there are people who don't want to hear that because they've always called it communism and socialism. Well, this is a means of maintaining a social order that is such that you can go into a McDonald's and not worry about something happening to you, or some other place. Now, we have crime currently, but what I'm saying to you is we have to decide that when people graduate, until they get that job, until they get the life skills, give those life skills an opportunity to manifest themselves in a work product, until they can do that, then we're going to have to consider some sort of basic income. Now, there was a person who ran for president not long ago, and when he said that, people thought that, oh, that just makes no sense. But now it's starting to materialize, and people are starting to realize that this is important. And to another part of her question, she mentioned something called trades. You know, plumbers are pretty important people. Your toilet goes out, you will realize just how important a plumber is. If you have an electrical malfunction, you will realize just how important it is to have that electrician come over. And these trades are very beneficial. I'm not saying to everybody go to a trade, but there are some people that are suited for this, just as there are some people that are suited for other things. So you make that decision yourself. What I want people to know, that it's not a bad thing to be a plumber or an electrician, or to work in some auto mechanic. These are things that when I was in school, they were available to us in something called shop, and we could take up these trades. Well, we got away from that. And I'm not in any way now, I'm not going to be the guy who has a child who finished college and say all the other children should go to a trade school. I'm not that guy. By the way, I don't have a child. I'm unmarried and I don't have any children. That doesn't mean that I don't desire children. If I could live my life over, I would. And doesn't mean that I'm a person who's antithetical to marriage. I'm not. But I'm just saying to you, we don't want people who are, it's a kind of a person that is two-faced, as we say it in my hood. When you tell other people, send your child to a trade school, I'm sending my child to college.
Right.
I'm saying you have to think through that. But I think it's an honorable way to take care of yourself and your family.
Very good. We're going to move on to another question, but Connie, thank you for calling in. I know we have Alejandra there. Alejandra, are you there? Yes. Alejandra. Alejandra, are you there?
Hello?
You got me, Alejandra. You got me and Congressman Al Green here with a tip from Gilbert. What do you got for us?
I just wanted to call in first and foremost to thank Representative Al Green for all his work that he's been doing. I come from an immigrant household, and I think people like him are really holding it down for people that are really scared in the community right now. And I just wanted to ask him if he had any words of encouragement just to keep the youth going, especially with the midterms coming up and everything that's going on. It's a little hard to stay positive at times, but just wanted to see if he could offer any words of encouragement for that community.
Amen.
Well, yes, of course. First, I want to acknowledge that immigrants have really been the backbone of the economic order in this country. I mean, immigrants have given us great inventions. I don't know why we have somehow, as of late, concluded that immigrants are somehow antithetical to what is the best interest that we have for our country. They don't come here to, most do not. You know, there are always exceptions. You have judges who commit crime.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
Yeah, and
You got Wall Streeters that commit crime.
Yeah. So, you know, but somehow we now want to tag every person that is undocumented as a illegal. I really resent, I hate saying it this way, but I resent hearing people say illegals. Because what you're doing now is you're saying that this person somehow doesn't deserve life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And there are other people who will take this to some unusual extreme and hurt someone. So I'm a believer that immigrants, undocumented persons, you've been here, you didn't come of your own volition, you ought to be able to stay. And you've been a decent person. Or if you came here and you came on your own volition, but you've been helpful to us. Many of the houses that we have, we wouldn't have but for undocumented persons. Much of the food that we eat would cost more but for the undocumented persons. So we got to give them their due. They got to be respected and protected. And I pledge to you, I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that they're treated with decency.
Woo. There you go. I want to just say a good shout out to my good friends at Laredo Taqueria. I love your carne guisada. Congressman, you know what they say? Carol Burnett, I'm so glad we had this time together, but it's time to say so long. Can you believe it's an hour?
I can't.
It's an hour, just like that. You have the floor. I want you to say anything you want. You know your cameras. You got the floor. I want you to say why you should be sent back, not back, but still to Congressman, to your district there on CD 18.
Well, thank you, and I really do appreciate your providing me this opportunity. Friends, to all of you who are viewing and listening, I have unfinished business. I really want to get this legislation that will allow us to penalize people who will deny people of color or anyone a loan. I just think that that's so important. But I also have some other legislation that's equally as important. I have legislation for a Department of Reconciliation. There are things that have not been reconciled as it relates to us and the way we interact with each other in this country. We have not completely reconciled with the Aboriginal Americans, the indigenous Americans, the people who were here before Columbus. What we did to them with the Trail of Tears, that has to be reconciled. What we did to the Latino population in terms of taking land from them has to be reconciled. What we did with the enslavement of people of color from Africa for some 240 years, they worked without a payday. This has to be reconciled. So this Department of Reconciliation would help us to reconcile all of these dastardly things that occurred, most of them before we were born. But we need to still reconcile these. And I would also say this. I would hope that you would allow me to continue to serve. I'm asking for your support. I'm asking for your vote. And I'm asking you to do it because you know that I can do this job. The question is this. If you were going to fly through a storm in a plane, would you want a first-time pilot to fly you through that storm? Or would you want someone who's flown through a storm before? I've been through the storms in Congress. I know how to negotiate and navigate my way through. And I just beg that you would continue to allow me to represent you in the Congress of the United States of America. Thank you.
There you go. You heard it here first. Gilbert Garcia, tip from me. Talk to us, Inspiration and Prayer, saying we'll see you next time. All right, Houston, Harris County, this is Gilbert Garcia of A Tip from Gilbert, Talk, Inspiration, and Prayer. We're going to now be on television. We will air every Saturday on Comcast 17, AT&T Channel 99, Phonoscope Channel 96, Suddenlink 99, and also hmstv.org. Every new episode every Saturday at 7 p.m. And follow me on social media. See you then.